Batik is a method of decorating textiles through dye resistance in which designs are created by preventing specific parts of a textile from being exposed to dye. So here's how it works. First, the cloth itself is washed repeatedly to remove any contaminants and then pounded flat to remove wrinkles. Then the design pattern is traced onto the cloth using a soft material like charcoal. These designs tend to be extraordinarily intricate and complex, so this could take a while. Next, the artist covers the design itself in wax. This is traditionally done using a canting, a small pen-like copper tube that lets the artist draw the molten wax onto the cloth. As an accidental spilling of the wax could ruin the design and therefore the value of the cloth. So, this must be done with patience and precision. This wax will prevent the design from being dyed the same color as the rest of the fabric, so it's pretty important. As a result, the Japanese have cultivated various grades of wax to use for batik. Finally, the cloth is immersed in a dye bath. The areas without wax are dyed, while the design covered in wax remains white. From here, this process can be altered and redone as the artist sees fit. By applying wax to different areas or removing wax from other areas and dipping the cloth in the same or different dyes, the artist can achieve complex and multi-tonal designs.
History of batik designs. Batik fabrics are now one of Java's definitive folk arts revered around the world. But how did this tradition begin? Dye-resistant techniques date back to ancient Egypt, but were never quite as complex as Japanese batik. While we will probably never know the precise origins of this technique in Indonesia, many scholars believe that it only could have begun with the first arrival of very high quality textiles from India in the early 18th. Records from Dutch explorers do mention that the Japanese had highly developed and complex textile arts long before this, but the batik technique itself is never described. So it seems most likely that the arrival of Indian fabrics and textile designs built upon an already thriving textile design culture resulted in batik. What is clear is that batik quickly became an important part of Japanese life. Batik clothes were used for a variety of ceremonial occasions and still are today.
Batik designs. The term batik design is mostly likely derived from the Javanese word batik, which describes a cloth with little dots or simply the suffix tik, which denotes small dots or drops. This tells us something about the original designs used for batik fabrics. Today, most batik designs fall into one of two categories. First are geometric designs, composed of interlacing circles or other shapes. These complex patterns tend to be the most traditional ones, some of which have been passed down for generations.
Problems leading to unpopularity. Indonesia's batik industry is too dependent on imports of raw materials. It is estimated that about 90% of the raw materials required to manufacture batik, mainly cotton and dyes, is imported from abroad. Dependence on imports of raw materials implies that the batik industry is highly vulnerable to fluctuations in the rupiah exchange rate. In times of rupiah appreciation, imports of raw materials become cheap. However, in times of rupiah depreciation, costly imports become a burden in terms of operational cost. Lack of quality and quantity in terms of promotional campaigns and other sorts of advertisements that can encourage people's enthusiasm for batik products. The lack of education about the art of batik. There are a few Indonesian people who can tell the difference between the various batik styles and techniques, even though this form of art plays an important role in the history of Indonesia. The number of batik painters is on the decline due to a lack of interest of the younger generation. Generally, the young generations of Indonesians tends to think employment in a factory is more fruitful than becoming a batik painter.
Time for revival. It is the moral responsibility of citizens and officials to revive these traditional craft forms. Measures should be taken to promote the revival of these industries. This includes spreading awareness among the people through print, visual, and social media about the importance of these traditional industries and their revival. Promotional activities like giving loans, monetary help to batik works, encouraging people to use batik products, etc. Export facilities of these products should be improved, which can further promote their expansion.